If you keep telling yourself the same story, you're gonna always end up with the same life. And this is the concept that we are gonna really dive into today. I do wanna preface this by saying this video is gonna be a tough video, but it is coming from a place of love. And I'm also going to provide some insight just based on my own lived experiences, because I too was someone who was so consumed with identifying with my past. One of the things that happens when you are stuck identifying with your past is that you may go through a cycle. And during that cycle phase, you kind of go between getting excited for the future, hopeful for the future. You have positive emotions related to thinking about the future. And then something happens and you regress right back into feeling so overwhelmed, consumed by your past. You may even feel hopeless, helpless. You may just feel like, what's the point? Nothing's ever gonna change. How would it? What would even change look like? Etc. And a lot of times that this happens is because of something called rumination. So I wanna really give you guys the definition of rumination so that you can understand what you're doing. And then we're gonna talk about why you need to stop doing it. You just Google the definition. All right, so in mental health, rumination is the habitual, repetitive focus on negative thoughts, problems, or distressing emotions without reaching a resolution or engaging in active coping. Let me read that again. In mental health, rumination is the habitual, repetitive focus on negative thoughts, problems, or distressing emotions without reaching a resolution or engaging in active coping. In other words, what I'm saying is you keep thinking about your past. You keep thinking about all the problems that you have. You keep thinking about all the negative things that are going on, but there's no resolution. You're either just thinking about it and trying to have a different outcome pan out in your head. You're possibly just thinking about it and making yourself sad again. Sometimes you may watch movies or look at different videos on social media. Sometimes you might listen to music that helps you get into that, it's almost like a hypnotic state where you're in the funk. You're just in the midst of the negative thoughts, the depression, the sadness. And this is a form of ruminating. We need to stop it. I'm gonna tell you, it's easier said than done, but it has to be done. So for me, I was ruminating, and the reason why I was ruminating is because I was trying to look at every potential different outcome that could have happened. I was trying to really go back into the past in my mind and pick up on things that I didn't pick up before. I was trying to figure out, where did I go wrong? What could have been done differently? How could I have missed that? Stuff like that. And the crazy thing about this is also become like a form of dissociation. So like sometimes what would happen is I would be watching a movie or I would be on TikTok and someone would say something or do something that would trigger me to remember something that happened in my own life. And then now I'm going down this spiral of, okay, well, they said this or they reacted that way, referring to like whoever was on the movie or the social media. And I'm like, oh, wow, I should have done that, or I should have did this. Or listen to music and it puts you back in that state of mind and you're thinking about anything and everything related to all the bad stuff that's ever happened to you. And then it'll take you down a path. And the crazy part about it is, I feel like ruminating happens on your first step of healing. And I'm not talking about getting a journal, saying affirmations in the mirror, getting your nails done as a ritual of self-care. I'm talking about like the real nitty-gritty, get down to the bottom of healing, being introduced to your other mental health people like to refer to it as like your shadow side or whatever the case, but really understanding where your trauma stems from and how you're reenacting these traumatic events. So the ruminating is what kind of snowballs and triggers some of the healing. That's how one could get addicted to ruminating. And I will say that I was addicted to thinking about the past. I was. And sometimes I would have epiphanies when doing this. And that little burst of, aha, see, I wasn't crazy. Because usually when you're in traumatic events or you're dealing with toxic people, you're being lied to, you're being manipulated, you're being gaslit. So the rumination also is kind of that thing that you do to help you ground back to yourself, to help you really make sure, like, wait, was I tripping? Did this really happen? Did this happen how they said they did? Because this is a whole another video for another day, but when you're coming out on the other side of toxicity, it's like you're stepping out of a fog. So the ruminating is kind of you trying to make sense of what happened. So again, I was having epiphanies, and those little spurts of aha, see, I knew I wasn't crazy. They were addictive. They felt good. It was like, oh man, I knew it. And then especially if you find out some more truth about past situations, now you're going back and you're like, I should have known this, or I should have. It's not helpful. It's gonna happen. I do feel like it is a necessary part of healing, but at some point you have to realize that you're doing it and stop it. So what would happen when I finally realized, like, oh my God, never gonna stop being depressed because my mental real estate is filled with negativity. I'm either constantly thinking about the past, or I'm trying to brace for impact with potential harmful outcomes in the future, or I'm trying to outsmart the toxic person, or I'm trying to think of ways to interact with people that I shouldn't even be interacting with in the first place. So instead of me trying to, and this is me telling you guys exactly what I was doing, right? And this is why I'm speaking from experience, but trying to really prepare for conversations or prepare to be in the presence of someone who constantly was disrespecting me. And it just, I would get mad. I would feel my blood boiling, just acting out these things or remembering certain situations. And so because a lot of my time was spent dwelling on the past, bracing for impact for potential future toxic situations, your mind is consumed with that stuff. How do you have time to create a positive life? And I'm not saying this in like cliche terms, like, oh, happy, you gotta change your thoughts to change your life. I'm saying quite literally, if all day, all night, you're constantly just ruminating and thinking about the past, thinking about all the negative in the present, thinking about all the negative potentially in the future, how then do you have time? And this is a serious question. How do you have time to think about positivity? You don't. And that's when one day I just realized it was the day after a day that I had an actual good day. Like, I remember feeling like, oh, okay, I feel a sense of peace. I wasn't harping on stuff. I was just kind of aimlessly going on about the day without dissociating and having flashbacks and trying to make sense of the past. And when that happened, the next day, woke up and just felt helpless, hopeless again. That's when it dawned on me. I'm like, I spend a lot of time thinking about negativity. And so I started writing down like all the stuff I was thinking about, all the people who did me dirty, all the things that I hated about this or that, all the things that I worried about, all the things that I braced myself for, all the major past events that kept reoccurring in my thought processes, all the things that I believed were the reasons why I wasn't yet at my future self. It was just a random stream of consciousness. And I'm not telling you like, oh, get a journal and here's the prompt. No, just a piece of paper, your notes, whatever. Just start writing all the things that are in your head. Just like, okay, my mom and I got into it yesterday, like she keeps yelling at me or whatever the case, like, at work, that same one coworker, whatever is consuming your mind all the time and you feel like you're bracing for or thinking about, start getting that out. And then when you see it, you'll realize like, wait a minute. And if you are having positive thoughts in between all of that, you can kind of jot those down just so you have a visual representation of what is going on inside your head on a daily basis. Once I did that, it was devastating because I was like, wow, No wonder I'm sad. If you think about your brain in the sense of like neighborhood, a village, my village was just tainted, if you will. Everybody was just groggy. It was dark, it was gloomy. There was no positivity, no sunshine. There was no sense of order. And that's how like I visualized what was going on. What I told myself is, nope, every time I start thinking about something negative, I need to like try to think of something positive, or try to think of what I could do to help with my future self. It's not an easy thing to do because most people are addicted. I won't go as far as saying addicted. I was addicted, but I won't project that onto anyone. I would say that it's so ingrained, it's habit now. Just kind of sit in this toxic constant back and forth regarding your past. So now it's time for you to start getting intentional. Now it's time for you to start being more conscious of what you're actually thinking about, because all this stuff, let's be real, is happening on autopilot. I don't think anyone genuinely truly wants to constantly make themselves feel bad. However, sometimes it's such a familiar feeling that you can't help it. When I was like at one of my lowest moments, I would remember getting off of work and I'm like, oh wow, I feel good. I'm off work. I have nothing else to do for the day. This feels nice. Okay. And then immediately just this wave of sadness would hit me because I would start worrying about something and, oh, this feels too good to be true. Something bad's gonna happen. And now I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. And now I'm like looking for signs that something is happening right underneath my nose. Oh my God. I know that there is someone out there that can relate to this, and I want to tell you first and foremost that you're not crazy, you're not broken. I'm not telling you guys to stop the ruminating and let go of the past and move on in a way to invalidate what happened to you. I'm not telling you this in a way to minimize or dismiss whatever it is that you went through. Saying though that a lot of times the trauma that we have endured was something that we experienced by way of someone else. And I'm saying that at some point, if you really get serious, if you really do the work, you have the ability to pull yourself out of that and change your life. This isn't to say that you're never gonna feel sad again. No, that's not gonna happen. This isn't to say that you'll never have a moment of dissociating and you start ruminating and then you have to snap yourself out of it. Of course, right? You're human, that's what we do. But what I'm saying is there is a point in time in your life where you can either balance out the thoughts between pleasant and negative, or you can override that so that you're putting more effort into changing than you are putting effort into remaining the same. Either way, both of them are hard and both of them are kind of painful. Now that we talked about ruminating, I want to really talk about getting into that next phase. And this phase is also going to be hard because people are going to try to project your past back onto you, because some people only relate to you when you are operating from that hurt version of yourself, when you are operating from that traumatized version of yourself. Some people only benefit from an unhealed version of you. So of course they're not gonna wanna see you glowing up and working hard to change yourself. Another reason why people aren't gonna wanna see it, even if they're not the cause of your trauma, is because when we interact with other people, most people are like very competitive in the sense, and sometimes it can be subconscious, and it's a very crazy phenomenon to experience, but people will use you as a mirror. So they will use you as a point of reference, and some people will compare themselves to you. So if you guys are both down in the trenches, it's like, okay, cool, I may not feel good about my situation, but I feel okay enough because there's other people down here with me. That saying, you know, misery loves company. And it's one of those things is like, no one wants to be miserable. But more importantly, no one wants to be miserable alone. That's when people will start bringing you down. You know, you may have someone in your life who you can't even be joyous around because anytime you show any ounce of happiness, here they come to rain on your parade because they don't have that inside of themselves. In addition to people wanting to project your past back onto you and keep you stuck and keep you where you're at just based on possibly them benefiting from an unhealed version of you, the other reason why they would do it is because once you start elevating, now they have to sit with their discomfort of, oh, wait a minute, why am I not changing? And now that's when envy comes into play because some people just, they don't got it. They don't got that grit. They know that they don't like feeling like this. They know they don't like living this way, but they don't have the oomph, or they just, you know, they're too egotistical to ask for help. So instead of changing, they just accept what their terms are and they align themselves with people that are in similar situations, or they align themselves with people that they feel are beneath them. And so if you were someone that they placed in a role of being right at the same level with them, or if they placed you as beneath them and then you start elevating, oh, no. Now I feel bad about myself because wait a minute, by my calculations, you were beneath me. Now, who do you think you are? You're eating, you know, protein and you're working out and you're looking good. And people are this petty, unfortunately. It's not gender specific. Doesn't matter. It could be family, it could be friends, it could be your partner, it could be, you know, and it's just like, I need you to brace yourself for that, because this is another reason why people stop changing, is they want to hold on to their interpersonal relationships with others so bad that they will self-sacrifice for the greater good of a relationship, whether it's with your family, whether it's with your partner, whether it's with a friend. I'm telling you, stop. We're not self-sacrificing, because the self-sacrificing is another form of an anchor that's keeping you tethered to your past life. And we're not trying to stay there. We are trying to prove to ourselves and have the self-trust with ourselves that we can actually change our life. So understanding that this is going to happen, and don't take it personal. Don't take it personal. I mean, that's also easier said than done, because when someone's cussing you out, or someone's telling you you're never going to amount to anything, or if someone's constantly criticizing your dreams and laughing in your face and making you feel like you're not good enough, yeah, that does absolutely feel like a personal attack. But what I want to say is, most toxic people who will do things like that to you, they'll do it to anybody. Because it's not even about you at that point, it's about them. It's about how they feel. It's about that they don't feel adequate enough, that now you're making them feel bad. Imagine that. Your glow up and your elevation and your belief and dedication to leave your past behind you can literally be someone else's trigger. And so when you start realizing that this is happening, you have to put a distance between you and that person. If you can't go completely no contact, then you need to limit interactions. You need to stop telling those people your dreams, your goals. Sometimes we do that because we want the validation, we want the love. We don't really realize how toxic these people genuinely are until you start leveling up. That saying of, want me to do good, just not better than you. So, you know, they might be a fake cheerleader on the sideline, but the second like you really start having that motion, now it's a whole different story, and you're confused because you're like, wait a minute, I thought I told you what my goals were, you were all for it, but now that I'm actually achieving them, you're a hater, you're an op. It's gonna happen, it sucks when it happens, but being prepared is what's gonna help you be able to move on and get to that next level. Now this is gonna go hand in hand with what I was saying about bracing yourself and being prepared that people are not going to be happy when you start changing. They're gonna want to so desperately keep you tethered to your past. And that's when you have to develop bulletproof self-respect, self-trust, and self-worth. Because you have to let yourself know. Forget other people. You don't gotta keep announcing what you're gonna do or how you're gonna change. Honestly, truly, if the people in your life are that toxic, then it's best to just keep it to yourself and just show up on the scene one day a completely changed version of yourself. But you have to have that unwavering, undeniable knowing, yo, I'm not this person anymore. I'm actually that girl. Whatever that girl may be. You have to define who that is. You have to define what your life looks like when operating from that place. But you have to know without a shadow of a doubt that I may not be there yet, but I'm on my way. I'm in motion to get there. I've talked about this concept so much on my channel. You have to embody your future self. It's not a destination. You have to be her now. Dress like her, eat like her, work like her, be emotionally intelligent like her. You have to start changing how you're showing up in the world today, not 6 months from now. Oh, just give me 4 months. No, you got to start making, and that's why it's hard. Remember, I was saying with the rumination, you got to break that rumination thought and you got to get into an action. It's as if you're working out your execution muscle, right? You're working out your future self muscle. Like, you have to, when you're building muscle, you got to keep doing the same movement over and over. You got to keep, if you want to see the muscles, you got to keep doing the same movement over and over. And what happens when you're building muscle is you're tearing the muscle fibers and they're coming back stronger, and that's how you see a visible difference. And that's exactly what you're doing. You're tearing down this past version of yourself. Kindly, we're not faulting her. Was doing the best she could with what you had at the time. So this is not to totally diss her and stun on her. Grateful for that version of yourself, because that version of yourself got you this far. But we're letting that version of yourself know, hey girl, I got it from here. We are no longer in survival mode. We're about to thrive. We're not just surviving. All of that being said, this video, I'm hoping, can hear something in you to really want to make the changes necessary to untether yourself from your past and be able to start walking towards your future. And the most important takeaways is that you want to be intentional of your ruminating and be intentional with where you spend your thoughts, the mental real estate that you're giving to your thoughts. You want to limit interactions with toxic people who make you feel bad about yourself. Like, become crystal clear with who you want to be and where you want to go, what you want your life to look like, so that you have something to work towards. You want to embody that version of yourself as of today, not tomorrow, not 6 months from now. You want to start showing up in the world as this person. I really just want to offer you the grace and the understanding. Like I said, this is in no way, shape, or form to invalidate what you've experienced, what you've endured, where you're at, what you're dealing with. But I'm saying that you don't have to stay there. Once you make that decision to change, then change will come. So thank you guys for being here. Please like, share, subscribe to the channel, watch the videos that you haven't caught up on yet. And until next time, I will see you guys later.